So previously, on the first part of the episode with Zuhair and Farouk from the Pivotal Show, we tackled various topics from social media detoxing to why pivoting is such a good thing. So let's continue the real talk this time. All right, let's change the topic up a bit. So
Yeah.
in the last 6 months, what have you done that you regretted?
That's a curveball.
It
Getting
definitely were. I mean, I can say from like from a health point of view, definitely, I fell off the
yeah,
wagon
maybe.
completely.
Yeah.
I had all these plans. In fact, there was a time maybe around 6 months ago when I was I started watching my weight a little bit. I was being careful about what I was eating, and I was actually losing a bit of weight. But my energy levels were also, and I wasn't able to find the time to be able to kind of boost that energy by doing some workouts as well. So the weight loss was happening, but I wasn't able to do anything to keep my metabolism and my energy levels up. And so because I just ended up spending so much time in front of my computer, and so, I developed like really bad back pain, sciatica. I started doing physio, but I started putting on weight again after that. It's been downhill from there. Like I keep having these thoughts and plans, but then, end up burying those thoughts in a tub of ice cream. So that on again, off again thing, I think like because now I'm 41, I'm having to force myself to think more carefully, but I'm not actually doing anything as much about it. And I think what I regret probably more than anything is that I haven't done I haven't had the time, the opportunity to really do more. And I think it bothers me a little bit on the inside, I don't talk about it as much as I should, but
Like honestly, what I regret, people think that these are things that are stupid, but I don't think they're stupid. One of them is what you're saying. Like, I could have utilized that time to get healthier, or eat better, or even like go out for more walks. Like if I went for a walk 20 minutes a day, you know what I mean? Like,
other people did, it's like I see other people doing it and I'm just like, well, they also have kids. They've obviously got a job.
what's different between them and us? So no, and as well as I think I could have done a bit better on, you know, possibly adding something to me. Like right now, like I'm trying to fill my void. No, I'm just joking. No, like actually having
I
something
knew it.
that I can build on. You know what I mean? Like I think I just wanted to do so many things, yet I wanted to maintain from my past life as much as possible. That I, kept juggling everything and really didn't really get to do anything. You know what I'm saying? Like, when
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
you're spinning, and I think that's,
You stretch yourself, yeah, just to kind of overcommit your mind, and then you're not able to kind of
I mean? Like,
actually implement.
I see countries right now getting into like another lockdown, whatever. I think if
Mm.
we ever get into another lockdown, I think I would have a plan. But not saying I don't want to be in another lockdown because I'm happy with going out and seeing people. But still, like, I think that again, it, as Farouk said and as you said, like, we were out of shock on how life suddenly stopped or suddenly had to be manipulated or dictated by this, disease or whatever, right? So I think that's my kind of regret, like not having it, getting more things done or getting something done, at least that's finished.
I think a little bit tying into what you said, Abe. My regret, if I would like to put it that way, would be I think I could have done more. I tried to do. I mean, I told you. I mean, I had a complete pivot in my career. I used that time to move into a completely different area, which was which is a completely new area for me for compared to my past 20 years of experience. So it's a huge steep learning curve,
Yeah.
and that's good because I like those challenges. So I worked on that during the pandemic, but I think I could have done more. I always keep on talking about productivity, personal productivity, and time management. I think I could have done it better myself. I've got around a couple of songs which are half recorded. I should have finished them. I should have released them. These guitars don't look nice just on the tree. I should have played more music. That's what I want to do for myself. Unfortunately, I didn't do that. Now I'm struggling to find time to complete my songs because Now that I'm in a new role, it's a huge steep learning curve. I'm involved practically 7 days a week, figuring things out and working on the new project, on the new role. So now I don't have enough time as I had earlier. So I think that's one thing. The second is, I think, as a family guy, I think, I'm blessed. You guys have been to my place. I'm blessed to be living in a around an area which is, it's just beautiful in the night. And even during the lockdown, we had certain amount of people, walking, jogging, sitting down, so they had some restrictions
Activity.
of the SOPs, but it was, I think, except for the time where we had kind of a curfew in the night, it has always been open. So I think, that would have been a very good time to reconnect with family or, step out of the house every, couple of days.
You know what I
Maybe.
find? What I find that, and I think from what I feel like is really helping me a lot right now, other than these really awesome beige headphones. Um, Thanks for complimenting them, by the way.
Don't like them.
I love them, man. They make my head look bigger. The black ones were these are Sony's, by the way. They're actually pretty good. But I think one thing that I've always been a big fan of doing, and I don't do it enough. And I think, hearing you, Farooq, and you, Abe, as well, is that, there's a lot of coulda, woulda, shouldas. And I think what happens is that desire to make these wish lists of things and then not being able to achieve them is partly because we get greedy for things that we want to keep doing because we're like, oh my God, I'm getting older, whatever, time is slipped by. Maybe you're not even thinking about it. Maybe you're just looking at it from a daily perspective, but that list will never get shorter. It's only going to get longer.
Yeah.
So I think if there's one thing that I've really gained in these last few weeks from this sort of spending more time, like my day is awesome. I spend at least a couple of hours in the morning with my son. I work through the day, a few hours. I don't do any work like more after in the evening after work, after like 6ish, and so I've really reduced my work hours. I've tried to increase the productivity within that time, and I really try and pick and choose what I want to be involved in. And I found that most of the stuff that I was doing before that I'm not doing now was just not important enough. Sure, that's creating a little bit of a backlog and things are getting stuck. But, I think if there's one thing that I've really gained from this period right now is that if you just completely stop everything and then you just let the important things float back up, yes, some things there will be collateral damage, some things will get a little bit stuck, and that's okay. They were getting stuck anyway, right? If not this and that. But at least this way, instead of a list of 10 things that never get done, you'll get 2 things that absolutely need to get done because there's more time to do those, and you'll probably be able to tend to them in a better way. And I found that in kind of clearing up the noise in the space around me, it's given me more buffer to be able to be more thoughtful and more conscientious about other stuff. It's helped me personally, and I hope that this continues. But this this thing of not having time is a manifestation of our own inability to create that time. Like Sophie would always say to me that if something is important enough, you have to find a way to make time for it, whether it's working out, whether it's eating healthy, whether it's meeting friends or getting your work done, whatever, right? The way that we plan our day or don't plan our day is really entirely up to us, and sometimes we lose sight of that because we feel like a lot of it is out of our control because it's kind of influenced by external factors, but sometimes it's just about cutting them out and letting the important ones come back. So um, yeah, I think we just need to kind of find a way to reclaim that control.
I think we're gonna definitely reclaim this by bringing back the Pivotal Show.
Yeah.
Definitely, like we have to start
So,
bringing back that. And one last thing I have to ask you. This is something I do on my show that I'm going to ask both of you. Is I'm going to ask you this question, and I'll start this question to. Let's start with Zuhair. So I ask all of my guests, if you want to mimic a superhero, who would that be? Or if you want a superpower, what would that be? I'm going to ask you the same question, Farouk. So get ready for that too.
mm,
So if if the question was around which superhero influences me or which one am I drawn most to, I would always say Batman, because I always found that Batman unusually was the atypical Superman, because he didn't have any superpowers. He just had a ton of money and a lot of really cool toys, which I think in real life is more relatable. It's more relatable than, Flash Gordon or Superman, because those are unattainable, right? And plus, I don't know where planet Krypton is, um, but I think that if it was about having a superpower, I think it would be. I mean, it would be the ability to kind of transport myself from place to place. Um, Not be able to see things, through things, not be able to read people's minds, but just be able to move from place to place very quickly. Because I feel like if there's one thing that I'm not able to do that I really love doing, is being in multiple places. I think about it from a practical point of view. Um, when my mom is feeling a little bit unhappy, she lives alone. I just want to up and just be with her for like 20 minutes, and then just kind of zip back and be with my wife and my kid, and then, zip away and maybe hang out with you guys and have, like that. For me, I feel like that barrier of distance and proximity and the inability to expedite that travel in between, I feel is an encumbrance. So that's a superpower I'd love to have.
Nice, nice. And Farouk?
Well, interestingly, my answer to these kind of questions always is a bit different, with a lot of people not really considering it to be a superhero or superpower, but that's the way I would like it. And that is, I'd love to have a DeLorean time machine in my garage. That would look really cool. And, being Dr. Brown, going around fixing things, uh, you know, push back and forth in time.
I'm not convinced, man. Do it again.
So
I'm not
yeah, I mean
convinced.
it's okay. I
I'm
mean,
not
up
convinced.
to you, man. I mean, but then I'll have control on
I
time.
feel like if I'm honest,
I could
if I'm honest,
practically
if your
alter the
super if you had a
space-time
superpower,
continuum.
no, I think you're just saying that. I think the real superpower that you really want to have is the ability to be able to take out time to be able to make music.
Well,
Like
I could
literally, just
make my
create
own
time.
time, my friend.
I
I
think
could make my
exactly.
own time if I had a
No, but
DeLorean time machine.
yeah, but the thing is, then you're caught in someone else's time. You're just there as a blip, right? But if you would actually be able to take a 24-hour day and stretch it to 26 and use those 2 hours to make music, that would be your
Well,
superpower.
that's something that I can do now also. I mean, it just takes a little bit of
Now he's getting greedy.
better productivity, man.
Definitely,
That's what I
definitely.
help people do, man. Make 26 or maybe 30 hours out of 24 hours.
Well, it's interesting how both
Well,
of you had a time-bound kind of superpower. One wants to teleport, and the other one wants to travel back in time, just to, you know what I mean, like just to make more time, I guess, or to be everywhere. So
Time is money, baby.
it is definitely, and I've had some really weird, great responses. By the way, when I asked people, I had a couple of guests who picked villains as their, which is, by the way,
that's great.
nobody asked me this question, and I'm
Yeah, I was gonna ask you.
no, no, but I'm gonna keep it for its own episode for the reveal, because I will be picking a villain. I can guarantee you that.
Harley Quinn.
Harley Quinn. I wish.
Sexy tights. Actually, no. Abe is the villain.
So
Don't you get it?
you
He's
know
making
Yeah.
his own superhero.
exactly. And on my WhatsApp, my status is always chilling like a villain, right? So, but no, but in all fairness, it's always great to see people's, this perception about this topic, because it's not something I say it's a curveball question, because it's not something people, at least not adults, think about. About a
Mhm.
superpower, or who would they want to mimic as a superhero. This is something that is, we're trying to keep the show a bit lighter on. But in saying that, I want Farouk, if you can just do a takeaway about this episode. You can talk more about what did we talk about, and then we'll talk about the hashtag for the Pivotal Show, and then I'll talk about my hashtag, and I think we can end it there. But so,
And my non-hashtag for my non-podcast.
and yeah, and just say hashtag Zohare and his crazy filter.
Hashtag offline.
So exactly, I'm plugging. So go ahead, Farouk. Floor is yours.
Yeah, so I think it's a good comeback. We've had a long enough break, especially when we talk about Pivotal Show. All of us were busy in our not just projects, but also family, and a lot of things were going on in each of our lives. So it's a good good thing that we connected here again. And I'm really happy, Abe, with your pivot, with your podcast. All the best to you, man. I mean, and by the way, just to clarify to our viewers and our listeners, this does not in any way mean that the Pivotal Show is going anywhere or that Abe is sidelining from it. I don't know whether you want to do that or not, but we're not letting you go. So the Pivotal Show is pretty much here to stay. But the thing is, the good thing that came out of this break is that we discovered a lot of things about ourselves. I say that for myself, I say that for Abe, and I say that for Zohair, because all three have had different, completely different sort of agendas, or different reactions to this time off that we had. And now in this upcoming episodes of the Pivotal Show, I think we're going to talk more in close. And we said this in the first episode, that we want to be more in sync and more connected to our listeners and viewers, no matter how. I mean, in a way, it's good that we have lesser subscribers. Stop fooling around, Zohair. You're distracting me.
I'm trying to see
So
how sincere you are in your thought process that you can stay committed
yeah.
to it while I'm experimenting with my looks.
So I think for our listeners and subscribers, it could be a blessing that we have lesser ones, because then we can give time to each one of them. If they just put in one comment or send us a message of what they want, what are their challenges in personal growth or in personal productivity, and we can take care of that. We can discuss that topic in one of the episodes.
He's
So,
always looking for
yeah,
external validation. He always wants these comments from people.
I want to help people, man.
You know,
That's all I
you know
want
the
to
funny
do.
thing.
Help yourself.
Most of my listeners are listening on Apple Podcasts and Spotify, so all these
So they're
filters
not going to.
that is doing.
Who is?
My YouTube channel needs work, so that's why keep at doing
I'm
it.
helping you.
We
Yeah.
can definitely use them for social media, but
Maybe this will get them to come to video.
that's what
They
it
don't
is.
know what we're talking
Yeah.
about.
I'm telling you, man, it's gonna sound super weird on audio. They will have no idea what we're commenting on,
But that's the
and
point,
that
right? They'll want to know what's going on.
They'll need to come back and see the video.
Yeah.
But no, I
That's
hear you. I hear you. For I think it. You said it. You know, we have gone through a transition. I think I mean this when I said like everybody did do a pivot within the pivot show. You know what I mean? Like with Zuhair kept talking for the longest time about this venture that he's going to start, and then in the end he ended up doing it. You pivoted your career. I launched my standalone show. But again, yes, I'd love to keep doing this pivotal. I think the energy is fantastic. I like how we can pretty much talk about anything, and it's such a good this is actually bringing back some good memories. So we should do this more often,
mm,
guys. And in saying
Yeah.
that, I do we do have a hashtag called hashtag Real Talk No Nonsense on the ABZ show, and the Pivotal show has a hashtag. Remind me, what was the hashtag?
I don't remember. Was it just the pivotal show?
well, the Pivotal Show is good enough.
You know what? Hashtag the Pivotal Show, and I think on LinkedIn it's got at least 100 links to that post. So,
Yeah.
guys, is a pleasure having you on the show, and let's kick back the Pivotal Show and see what we can do with it. I think we need to do more of that, and I think it was just good to see both of you unplug from your busy lives and to do this.
Yeah, I think so, man. And
Yeah.
I think it's worth noting that a lot of people watched the stuff that we were doing. I mean, and by a lot, I mean people who we knew who would mention it or reference it. And it always made me feel like, we don't have to make large volumes of impact but people who
But
care actually
relevant.
are and relevant. And I think that I like the pace of this. It doesn't feel pressured. It doesn't feel like we're in an agenda. There's a script and there's this sort of, I mean, we have some thoughts and ideas and, structures, but for the most part, I think the thing that makes this work really well, and I think the thing that the miss the most and I enjoy the most is that we can be ourselves individually, and it's just, I think that's what people connect with, not necessarily us individually, but those pivots that you guys were talking about. I think they're so fundamental. And I, for the longest time, I thought I wasn't going to start my thing, but finally happened, and now I'm in the thick of it. So yeah, until the next one.
Until the next one.
Until, yeah.
All right,
Until we
guys.
meet
Okay.
again.
Take it easy. Have a good one, man. Talk to
All
you
right,
soon.
guys.
Bye.
Bye.